Good morning. It gives me great pride to join all of you this morning to talk about our community taking a bold step forward on the one-year anniversary of President Obama's launch of the My Brother's Keeper initiative. I'm proud to announce that the City of Columbia stands united with our colleagues and friends from Richland County, Richland School District 1, Richland School District 2, the University of South Carolina, Benedict College, Allen University, and Midlands Technical College to make a $500,000 investment in our community's My Brother's Keeper efforts. This investment will be made over 4 years and will be coupled with the privately raised dollars from our corporate and philanthropic citizens. We'll establish the My Brother's Keeper Columbia's designation. Churches, nonprofit organizations, businesses, any organization working to improve the life outcomes of our community's young men of color will be eligible to receive this designation. The My Brother's Keeper Advisory Board will establish a criteria for the designation and help provide us with a repository of information and create standards for tracking and sharing data across public agencies and community partners, so we're easily able to identify best practice and efforts that are scaled up can have a huge impact on our children's future. We began this process in late September as the administration launched the My Brother's Keeper Community Challenge. I'm proud that our community, with several of the folks behind me, was the third community in the country to formally accept the President's challenge by holding a local action summit. Today, we're boldly moving forward, creating a bright future for all of our young people across this great Midlands. This effort is vital to every sector of our community, so I'm proud there were such strong partnerships working together with the men and women behind me to collectively take this bold step. I'm going to take the pleasure of introducing my friend, the former chairman of Richland County Council, and a leader at Midlands Technical College, for a brief word, Mr. Paul Livingston.
Good morning. Now, what excites me about this My Brother's Keepers initiative is it's going to surely afford us an opportunity to partnership, form so many unique collaborations in our community to move forward. You know, when I think about some of the great initiatives that are going on now, particularly at Midlands Technical College where I am, you know, the African American Male Leadership Institute, where we're bringing young men together to try to make a difference in their lives. The Carbon Mentorship Program, working with young men who describe to be elementary school teachers. You know, the 100 Black Men of Greater Columbia. There are just so many great opportunities, so many great organizations in our community. But to have a foundation like My Brother's Keeper to pull all this together, it's going to be a tremendous benefit to our community. You know, so often, sometimes very difficult, you know, when I go out and try to raise money, particularly for the initiative with African American males, for a lot of individuals in our community, you see, that's not as attractive and as sexy as some of the other initiatives. So we need something like this to help us move forward with this great need in our community. And so I'm excited about it, and I'm committed to do all I can do to make sure this initiative be the best it can be for our great community. And thank you.
And now, we're going to have a word from Kelvin Washington of Richland County Council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the initiatives under the programs that Councilman Livingston spoke of is the Lower Richland program. This is a STEMS program. Lower Richland has been identified STEMS accreditation, the first in the nation under advanced ed. And we're very proud, and it was an initiative between Ingenuity SC and Midlands Tech. And what we did, we took these young men and put them in working situations. We're teaching them about work ethic. We're teaching them about etiquette. We're teaching them about STEM's soft skills programs to make them ready for some of these jobs. For instance, we have a nuclear plant being built not too far from here. Some of those jobs only require 2-year associates. With Midlands Tech's program with regards to nuclear engineering, these kids can come out making somewhere in the neighborhood of $72,000 with a 2-year associate's or a certificate. So that's substantial for my community and the Lower Richland community. making sure we put these kids in pipelines for jobs, immediate jobs. 80% of the jobs on the market right now only require 2-year associates. If they want advanced degrees, it only makes sense to have these companies pay for that advanced degree. But with this program, like Mr. Livingston said, it gives a foundation. It gives a foundation for support for these kids on top of that gap needed that a lot of these kids are lacking. Again, I appreciate the mayor pushing forward with this initiative to represent this community, and we'll continue to support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Washington. We're also honored to have the president of Benedict College, Dr. David Swinton, with us today. Dr. Swinton?
Good morning. I'm pleased to be a part of this initiative. This is a badly needed initiative in our community to assist our young men into moving into productive and potential for leadership positions, et cetera. Benedict College is very proud of its track record of working with young African-American men. We are one of the leading colleges in terms of proportion of males. We have equal proportion of males and females, whereas many colleges have many more females than they have males in their colleges. We have a lot of initiatives at the college, not only working with our students, but we also have initiatives working with pre-college students and with students in the community who maybe is dropouts from our Upward Bound programs, our Youth Build programs, a number of initiatives we have there. And so we're pleased to be a part of this. Our main contribution will be to try to assist students to get their way through college, to earn degrees, and be prepared to go on to professional and leadership positions. But we believe that this will be a success, and we're pleased to be a part of it.
Thank you, Dr. Swinton. In closing us out, we're going to have our friend and leader, the former chairman of the Richland School District 1, Aaron Bishop.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. It's been said that united we stand, divided we fall. The My Brother's Keeper initiative shows that Columbia has a rallying point for our leaders and our decision makers in several capacities and entities, from the city to the county to the school district to the college and higher education platforms, to come together to respond to a need, to respond to a position where it means that a village still raises a child. As we look at My Brother's Keeper, that is exactly what we're doing. We're holding ourselves accountable and making sure we're being responsible to a need in the community, and by making sure that every child, every student, most of all our black males, have an opportunity at a destiny and a future for themselves. So today, as Richland 1 stands here, we are excited about this opportunity because we share many partnerships with the City of Columbia and many initiatives. So this is one addition to the wagon of resources that we offer together for our students at Richland 1. We thank Mayor Benjamin and everyone who's made this possible, from the national level to the local level, so that we all can be our brother's keeper. Good morning.
Thank you all so much. We're happy to try and answer any questions that the press may have for us right now.
Mayor, one question I would have, I know it was rolled out in years, but the money was becoming from donations or maybe from money set aside from these organizations in their fiscal budget.
Sure. Well, this is from the organizations represented here. We'll be making the contributions, and it's meant, friendly, for this to be a public-private partnership, and this is meant to represent what initially started as a thought that the public sector entities, the school districts, the county, and the city would step up, and obviously we reached out to our friends, the incredible repository of research and data and information at our two historically black colleges here in Columbia and also University of South Carolina. And they also said they wanted to step up and participate. So this is really meant to continue to add to the character of what this has always been meant to be, a public-private corporate philanthropic partnership, recognizing the fact that it does take this village that Reverend Bishop talked about, the entire community to address, what has become a really complex challenge facing our community. So this will be $500,000 from the entities represented here over the next 4 years.
Mayor, have other communities around the nation done something like this?
I believe, you always want to make sure you speak affirmatively and factually. I believe that we are the first, that we are the very first community in the country to step up and make the financial commitment that we hope will be used to leverage a much larger contribution from the philanthropic and corporate forces that have been aligned to support this effort. There's been discussion of maybe $300 million or more in potential support dedicated to these types of efforts around the country. And this is our way of making sure that any and every potential donor understands that Columbia and Richland County and the Midlands of South Carolina, our educational institutions, our churches, and that we're all united in this effort and we're serious about it, and we're demonstrating it by putting our best foot forward first.
Was this an initiative that really needed funding, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the reason why I do what I do, and that these folks who are standing behind me do what they do, we've all been blessed beyond measure, and I worry about my children just as any father worries about his children. But I know that my children are going to have every opportunity that 21st century American life affords its best and brightest. My girls are going to be okay. The reason why we do what we do is to make sure that every other child in this community has the same opportunities that our children have. This is representative of that commitment, recognizing that while sometimes we may think that we're on a rescue mission for our children, that this is also part treasure hunt. We recognize our kids have incredible gifts, and some of the programs that are in action through the 100 Black Men of Columbia, that the incredible things that are happening at Richland School District 1 and at Benedict College. There's some really wonderful programs that are already in place in this community, and this is an effort to try and scale those efforts up. Let's scale them up. There may be some fantastic things happening in New York or in Birmingham or Chicago. Let's bring some of those best practices here. But we do know, just from our own collective life experiences, that if you're going to do something right, it has to be resourced. And we want to make sure that we're devoting the resources to do it and do it well.
Do we know what one of the first things that will be done or changed or added will be with these new funds?
Well, we're going to obviously establish an advisory panel. And we're going to allow the advisory panel to benefit from all the resources that we have behind us and some of the additional resource. We've got some pretty good data actually out there in Columbia right now. Our school districts have done a great job collecting information on the status of boys of color across this region. So we're going to allow the data to drive our decisions in the direction in which we go, but it's going to be covered significantly by the well of compassion you also see in this room.
And what does it mean to you as the mayor of Columbia that $500,000 over the next 3 years will be going straight to these kids?
I've known, the decision to commit these funds had to be made by the men and women behind me. I've known most of them, if not all of them, all of my adult life. So to say that I'm excited is one thing. I'm not surprised. This community is a loving community, good people who recognize the best that we have to offer, and also recognize that we're special, and that we can do incredible things right here. We don't have to go to D.C. or Atlanta or New York to see fantastic things happening, and there's a sense here in this community right now that we've been able to build together. That nothing is beyond our grasp, and that I find that very exciting, very exciting. And I'm answering all the questions. You guys feel free to ask anyone else. But I'm excited. I'm excited, and I believe that we will look back fondly just a few years from now at the work that we've done together to move our boys forward, and we will start seeing, hearing stories of success in places where we did not expect to hear stories of success. And we can directly point back to our efforts to work together as the reason for that success. Yes, sir.
First off, just want to say, Mayor, that this whole program that you have going on, as a young black African American male who went to HBCU and graduated, it means a lot. I'm sure it means a lot to a lot of other kids too that you're doing this. And just a few questions, not just to you, but to anybody who would like to speak on it. What can some other organizations do that's maybe around the middle of the state that can help, progress this program even more? And also, what do you think is the key thing to make this program consistent so it can work over years?
Well, I'll say something briefly, and I'll step aside, and maybe Councilman Livingston or Councilman Washington, Commissioner Bishop can talk about some of the really awesome things that are already happening. And I think this is an opportunity maybe to scale some of those things up, whether it's at Carver Line or Kelvin touched on some of the successes already at Lower Richland, or some of the things that the 100 Black men are already doing. But the answer is the community will have several opportunities to step up. And I mean, it's amazing what happens when you just get a couple hundred people in a room and have a chance to tell folks, some folks might not know what's happening in this one particular neighborhood, this mentoring effort that's showing a great deal of success. They may not know exactly what this one church might be doing and the impact it's having on these boys, or exactly what this Boy Scout troop might be doing in the inner city. So first, casting a wide net and having everyone sit in the same room and share ideas and best practices and what's happening. So we're going to do a huge casting call for everyone who wants to help move this community forward to come together and share their best ideas. So, I mean, you're going to find some folks, when we had our mentoring summit a few years ago, you had retired college presidents, and you had some folks who led a much more difficult life, served time in prison and found God and decided they were going to use the gifts that they now had to help boys get their lives back on track. You had some men who'd spent a lifetime developing a business in fishing and used fishing as a mentoring tool to help boys get their lives back on track. The goal is to figure out how so many organizations, disparate in their focus, something as different as training folks to be nuclear technicians to teaching boys how to fish or how to fix cars. How can you have 20 different organizations not going in 20 different directions, but have them all going in the same directions while remaining true to their mission and understand at the end of the finish line is a well-fed, well-educated, well-nourished, loved child who's living up to the God-given potential. So it's getting everybody going in the same direction. But y'all want to talk a little bit about some of the things that y'all been doing at different schools, or?
Well, one of the things that the mayor touched on, one thing that I like about the Lower Richland program that we've collaborated with Midlands Tech on, and Paul can speak to the scanner piece, but these kids immediately see the end game. I can get this job. Before, it was so far away from them. But just like I said, 2-year associates, nuclear operator. Midlands Tech has the only nuclear operator program in the country. South Carolina State has the only BS degree in nuclear operations in the state and amongst historical Black colleges. So those resources are here, just like the programs at Benedict. So once the kids go to the jobs, we have in the programs, they go literally on the job, talk to the managers, and the parents also go, and the teachers. So now they bring those skills back into the classroom and teach the kids. So now they have an in. I can get this job through Midlands Tech, through Benedict, making a livable wage. They're not struggling. And that's the thing that I like about the program and the collaboration. And that started out of a conversation, just like you're saying. How can people get involved? That was just a conversation, how that program came about. And then we saw some gap areas where kids need tutoring. A lot of kids have extracurricular activities. You know, they can't get the tutoring, transportation problems. So we talked to some of the churches that were doing tutoring, so they extended their hours so the kids can swing by before they go home. So now we're trying to expand on that. So it's just community conversations that we need to have, and I'm glad a resource will be there with our Brother's Keeper to bring all those resources together. And Mr. Living can speak to the programs that been listed.
But the answer to your first question is, you know, it's very clear that the data and the research is there when you talk about the plight and the status of men of color. But I think what we need to do is to raise the consciousness and awareness of folks in our community. And that's where folks like you can slide, folks who really get involved, to say, you know, here's the data, and what role can you play in our community? Is where we're starting, hopefully what we'll do with this process. And then begin to look at all those wonderful initiatives that are going on right now and figure out a way to partnership, as I mentioned earlier, and collaborate with those various initiatives to make a difference in our community. You know, and also to get our community to understand why this is so important. Because we're talking about the quality of life for every individual in our community. You know, when men of color are not successful and meeting their full potential, it affects the entire community. You know, when men of color are in prison, it affects the entire community. When they're not educated, not able to get jobs, it affects the entire community. So when we get the community to understand that, I think we've garnered the kind of support we need to see a tremendous transition in our community. So that's what we do. We get our community aware of what's going on and look at and play as great a role as you can.
I'll extend the conversation even further. And I agree totally with everything that Paul just said about men of color in the community. But what it comes down to is that people having a mind to work. When people have a mind to work, they believe in community and something called shared responsibility. With shared responsibility, you share resources. And so therefore, what we have done, one initiative that we've done is that we've allowed ourselves to welcome in daycare providers who are privately owned to come into the Closing Achievement Gap Conference, which allows us to catch the student even before they hit kindergarten or first grade by impacting the development and professional development of the caregivers at daycares, private daycares. And so evidently what that does is helps us give a student a head start before they even hit our public school system. So that is paramount, that is very critical to the development of a child because of the disparity between how many words a child is exposed to has a direct impact on their third grade reading levels. Third grade and fourth grade reading levels impact the prison system. So therefore what we're doing is hitting all points of gaps. And to speak about gaps, we're also closing not only the achievement gap, but the technology gap. With the technology gap, we have implemented DLE, which is the digital learning environment. A lot of school districts are behind and implemented, but Richland One is ahead of the curve. And so therefore, we're closing the technology gap. And the last thing we're doing is that we're making sure that we really have kneecap to kneecap conversation with 6th through 8th graders. Today, right now as we're standing here, we have something called the Black Youth Summit that is happening at Sanders Middle School, where we are engaging young black males between 6th and 8th grade to encourage them on life skills as well as educational pursuits. So Richland One is practicing shared responsibility to make sure that initiatives like the My Brother's Keeper is supported, not in our isolation, but in our involvement and community.
Thank y'all so much for being here, all right? And also for being so engaged, too. We appreciate it, all right?